How's it going, y'all? What's everybody up to this evening? What's up, guys? Let's see who we got going so far. Alright. JR, I see your actual account is on here, but you need to be logged into my account. Unless your account's big enough to go live, is it? I don't even know. No, it's not. Dang. Jeff, what's up, brother? How's the weather? It's been pretty great here. I've got the baby in here with me. Snowing? Jeez. I'm sorry. Oh, there we go. All right, guys, we got JR, Joshua Silva coming in with us to talk about Flatten the Curve. It comes out Tuesday. JR is a licensed commercial pilot and a flight instructor. Hello.
All right, can you hear me?
Awesome. There we go. Yes, sir. All right,
Nice.
so do we JR or Joshua?
Josh is fine.
Okay, Josh.
Joshua.
Cool. All right, guys, this is Josh Silva on here. Josh, it's good to meet you, man.
Good to meet you too.
Robbie, what you can call me. Josh is here to chat with us a little bit about Flatten the Curve and about a little bit about his experience and some other stuff. And just like everyone else involved with it, I don't know him or anything really about him other than what you guys know. And some of you that are watching probably know more than I do about him. So anyway, I just like to get myself out of the way real quick and go ahead and just let you jump into it and your role a little bit with the movie, talking about that, and then just what brought you to Flat Earth as being a pilot, and so forth.
All right, you there? I'm so sorry I lost you there for a minute.
You're good, man. All good.
Hello?
Bruce.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened. My screen's all frozen and everything. But anyways, we'll keep moving forward. So you
All
were
right.
releasing me to tell the story, huh?
Have at it, brother.
All right, cool. Well, my name's Josh Silva. I've been a pilot for about 12 years now. Aviation mechanic for about 4 of those years. Done and been a lot of places, done a lot of things, and I essentially kind of started hearing about this whole movement right around 2015, 2016, while I was in a non-aviation career at the time, and I just kind of approached it like a lot of you guys did, I think, from what I've heard your guys' stories, I've heard a lot from other people that have come into this path that pretty skeptical at first. In fact, kind of in that whole idea of, how could that be? Like that doesn't make any sense. And kind of almost watching it for entertainment purposes in a way. Hearing, presidents talk about, the flat earth, that, we don't have time for the flat earth and the flat earth society and these comments. It was kind of ha ha at first. And then what intrigued me was the the absolute ridicule, the amount of ridicule or the venom when people would speak of this. I do remember a time when I was in an office full of some of the smartest people I've ever known. Engineers from all backgrounds, designers, software engineers, building engineers, all kinds of different disciplines. And I remember, I don't know how the subject came up, but they broached the topic of flat Earth. And they said, these flat earthers, they neither need to be put in front of a firing squad or be sterilized. And it just struck me as odd. I was like, these are very rational human beings. A lot of them claiming to be very pro people and tolerance, and preaching some of the tolerant messages that were really powerful at the time. And for some reason, this got such a violent reaction. It was strange to me. So I kind of just sat in the back of my mind for a while, and I was looking into other things and kind of going on my kind of conspiracy rabbit hole that I think a lot of us go on. But it kind of sat in the back of my mind. And then a few years later, I decided I wasn't flying enough, because I've been flying during some of the tougher times, and I wasn't building as many hours as I wanted to. So I was like, well, I'm going to become a flight instructor. So I dusted off my books and started preparing myself to take my teaching credentials, essentially, in flying. And I ended up getting those credentials finished in every category, and moving out to Arizona, where you can fly 7 days a year. And I flew for some of the biggest flight schools out there, and some of the smallest, some of the biggest academies. And anyway, just got to flying. And all that was sitting in the back of my head for a while. And there's conversations I had with a friend up north. We'd become pretty good friends while working together. And he was a really intelligent guy, well-read, good guy, smart. We used to mountain bike together and all kinds of stuff. We had these conversations, and we would question things like, well, neither one of us were completely. This is probably the times when we're like becoming more globe skeptical, I would say. You're like, well, how does a gas stay without a container? Where does space actually start? Have you actually ever seen a curve? And I couldn't say that I had. And I had at that point been up. I'd only been flying, I think at that point, about 27,000 to 29,000 feet. I'd been flying large turboprop aircraft for a nonprofit, and then mostly flight instructing and smaller turboprops and things like that. But subsequently, when I was in Arizona and thinking about all this, I obtained my first jet job, and suddenly my viewpoint went from 27,000 feet to 45,000 feet. And I tell you that when this gets stuck in your brain, it won't let go, because suddenly you realize your brain's been telling you something the whole time. It's like you got your own personal cognitive dissonance. Like your brain told you the whole time there was curve out there, and then suddenly, when something calls up to question it, you go, wait a second, I don't actually see that curve that's supposed to be there. Well, it's got to be there.
You just assume that you saw it because you expect to see it.
Exactly. You're supposed to see it, right?
Right.
And so, well, let me go see some of these videos. I'm going to see high altitude balloon work, and I'm going to see this stuff from NASA, and I'm going to see all this other stuff. I'm going to go watch all these videos, and then knowing, and from having a little bit of photography background and being around a lot of photographers and videographers growing up, some of which are still working in Hollywood now, and I've run these ideas past them. I was like, that's a fisheye lens. Like that whole warping of the image you're seeing, where it concaves one way and convexes the other as it turns. They're using fisheye lenses, just like the Red Bull jump was a fisheye lens. I still remember, I was actually working on firefighting helicopters at the time, and I was in Squaw Valley, California, on a firefighting gig, and I was in the hotel room watching the Red Bull jump, where he did the high altitude halo jump, basically, from the balloon. And I remember just sitting there in awe of it and realizing that's another fisheye lens that's being used. Like, why the fisheye lens? And there was one photo captured, I guess, with a normal lens, and it just showed a flat landscape. And he was at, I can't remember how many feet up was he. He was at like over 90,000, I believe, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he's way up. It's hold on, let me look it up. We'll just that way we're not making false claims on other people's false claims. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's very good. I don't have it off the top of my head either. But anyways, so that led me to start questioning things more and more. And then pretty soon, I guess I had to kind of count myself in the group that was leaning away from globe skepticism and more in, wow, this, until I see better evidence backing up the globe model, now I must be more leaning towards the flat Earth model. And it took me a really long time to accept that, because I did see the nature in which people reacted, and even friends and family. And I had some more outspoken family members that are now completely convinced of it, and they have family members very mad at them right now. And for some reason, everybody's okay with wild ideas. You can go on the Bible, you can go on ancient aliens, you can talk about just about anything nowadays, but you breach the flat Earth topic, and I don't know what it is, but I've seen a whole different person staring back at me. I'm
Dude,
sure
it's
you've experienced the same.
wild. It is so wild.
It's wild.
And it's nothing because you have this whole quote unquote truther community that investigate, you know, supposedly open-mindedly investigate things when really I think you're just looking for an excuse to be different and an excuse to not take a narrative rather than actually seeking for truth for some people. And you can see it whenever you breach this subject. It's just this complete
Yeah,
you're a retard. Like that's usually the first thing I get is
yeah,
you're a retard. It's like really you're a retard. Like that's usually the first thing I get is
yeah.
you're a retard. It's like really we're gonna go to like third grade insults just right off the bat.
Oh yeah. And it's interesting to me too, the mass media hysteria around it. Or for instance, when Stephen Curry or I believe even Shaq back in the day, or Joe Rogan, or any of those guys that at one time started saying things like about, false NASA videos or questioning certain things, and then they suddenly have to turn their whole story around and basically apologize
Yep.
for even thinking that. And it just threw me off. I was like, why the energy output? Like, why is it so threatening? If the globe model and all that stuff is, and everything else that surrounds it, there's just lie after lie on each side, right? Or at least that what we observe. Well, then why do you defend it so? Why do you actually believe that people need to go to jail or be shot over
Truth
something
does
that
not
apparently is
fear
supposed to be apparent truth to
investigation.
everyone? Exactly. And so that's whenever my radar is pinged, is when I see everybody on board with something. And then anybody who questions it becomes the new enemy. They say, if you want to know who's in charge, look to who you can't question, right? So, yeah, that's kind of been the journey so far. And I find myself here, and I was contacted. I made a couple comments and followed a couple pages with Vic on them, and he reached out to me and we started talking and asked me a little bit about my background and asked me if I'd like to get involved. And here we are. I got to be involved in a really cool project, and I'm really honored to be a part of it. And it's I don't count myself even as high amongst I'm the newcomer and the lowly new guy, but I can lend a little bit of my observations um, in my pilot background and some of the conversations I've had with crew chiefs and military guys and other airline captains that are questioning the globe model as well. They do realize that our gyroscopes don't dip down. Now, I've seen other arguments online. I'm not afraid of going and challenging my own beliefs or things that I'm beginning to observe. And I do see the arguments, and people are trying to say that, you wouldn't see it dip down. Well, actually, you probably would because of rigidity in space. But the other thing is that people forget is that we actually have to fly with a slight upward angle. So we would have to be falling around the Earth at an upward angle. We have to keep well, it depends on how fast or how high you're going, but you actually have to have a positive angle of attack to stay airborne, especially because the air is so thin at high altitudes. And that's part of the reason why flying at high altitudes was so dangerous for so long, because there's a margin where a wing will exceed they call it a critical angle attack, is when you have a stall. Well, if you exceed this critical angle of attack at any point in flight, you can have a stall. It's very dangerous at high altitude. So that's the reason why high altitude flight was, well, one of the reasons why, besides pressurization and that sort of thing, high altitude flight was so dangerous for so long, because airplanes would stall at 400 knots or 450 miles an hour, and they hadn't figured out why exactly. How can an airplane stall? It's a slow speed thing. And
Right.
so the air is that thin at that high of an altitude, right? And it's supposed to not only the air being thinner, it's supposed to hold in all this air to this atmosphere, troposphere, tropopause, stratosphere, all these layers pushing down on the Earth as it gets more and more light, as it gets less and less dense high up in the air. It just started to kind of unravel. It started to not make sense. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Everything else tells me in my observations that this can't be so. And I remember looking into Coriolis effect in my studies about this. I went back through my books and I'm like, look, okay, Coriolis effect, that's got to be able to be explained in my flight books. It's got to be explained in my physics book. I went to college. I went got a bachelor's degree in actually aeronautical sciences and flight physiology. I was like, okay, I'm gonna crack open my old books and take a look, plus my training manuals. I'm like, I've been teaching students about the atmosphere. Why can't I think of a good argument right now? And so I
Right.
started browsing forums and going through books. And what I found was anyone from airline captains to flight instructors to private pilots having arguments online about the Coriolis effect. And come to find out that I glossed it over. I guess it's personal cognitive dissonance again. Just glossed over it, the fact that it's just calculated into wind correction. So it's just kind of assumed to be there, right? Variations different. Magnetic variation, especially in private pilot days, you have to adjust for different strengths of magnetic pull on your floating kerosene compass in the cockpit. In larger jets, you don't have to do that because pretty much everything's going electronic. But Coriolis effect was factored into wind correction angle, and it was just an assumed force. So you add your wind correction angle just kind of magically takes care of the Coriolis effect. So the Earth spinning, like in your airplane, is taken care of by how much you're steering into the wind. And those are like, well, it's a byproduct. The wind is a result of Coriolis. But they even teach you in flying. You're going to have so many different wind patterns near an airport, near mountains. So mountain flying in itself is something that to be respected because of how wind works around surfaces, how friction works. Air has friction, and it has more friction the lower you are. The higher you go, the less it affects you. So this wind that's supposed to be universal, so universal that you can correct for it with a calculation as it varies back and forth, as it speeds up and slows down, but you're going to get to the same spot using these calculations if you do your math right, especially in a small airplane. That wind is so consistent up to, I mean, how many thousands of feet until you get to the tropopause? And it just started to not make any sense. Surface friction works near the ground. So what's pulling all this even thinner air along with the denser lower air? Like, well, how does it? It's really funny because it's like an assumption has to support another
Right.
assumption
Like
to support the first
you
hypothesis.
make up this, like, you have to make up. I don't even know how to explain what I'm trying to say right now because it's so dumb. You just invent this theory that we're of the spinning of the earth, so to speak. And then you take these
Right.
physical, natural physics of things of how you would have to fly against wind currents and then you just do some math and say, okay, see, it's a sphere spinning
Right.
when you
And
never
that's not
needed any of the sphere spinning information to begin with. You can leave all
no.
of it out and just go on with your life.
And if you look at the manuals, a lot of the calculations, and for military as well, not just civilian, including gunners, including radar operators, as will be shown in the film, which it's going to be pretty amazing to see all this knowledge come together. They all assume a flat Earth. They say so. They assume to be over a flat stationary plane for the sake or ease or whatever terminology you use of calculations.
Right.
So, wait, like, so we're going to go ahead and, propose math for landing a large piece of artillery onto a target, but we're just going to take the Earth account out of it when it should be massive drop by the time that thing gets in there. I mean, we've progressed far from the howitzers of World War II. These things can, I mean, they got range on them. And I mean, not to mention rail guns. I mean, a rail gun is an absolutely insane amount of distance, about 100 miles or so on
100
a
miles, yeah.
projectile. And it just kind
On
of
a
sort of
rope.
falls around the Earth to its target. Like it's just bizarre. And that's the things I don't want to be so steadfast in any argument where I won't listen. So I want to listen. If people want to bring forward good arguments or explain to me how I've been misled or I was wrong, I'm totally open to that, because I have to be humble about that, because guess what? I was in their camp not all that long ago. You know, I was there as firmly in believing the whole model 12 years ago, 9 years ago, right? I came on board 2015, 2016-ish. That's fairly recent. So, you know, I got to stay humble.
Right. Well, I mean, dude, I went from these guys, Kyrie Irving's an idiot, and anybody that thinks Earth's flat is stupid, to
Right.
us right now, where we're at. So, you know, once you actually try to look at it honestly. See, Justin, that's right, brother. The only way to get knowledge is to ask questions. We got Merlin, who flew copter, said it's flat.
Yeah.
Nice. Again, guys,
it
this is
yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I have videos.
This is Josh Silva, guys. He's a commercial pilot and flight instructor. He's part of the Flatten the Curve documentary that comes out Tuesday, the 22nd. It's going to be at realtruthseekers.net. I'll also be streaming it here on my TikTok through the screen share option, so it's going to be kind of a fun thing to do. But that's this Tuesday. That's going to be releasing 22/22 is the official release time in Spain, which will be 16/22 in the United States East Coast. Get our little plug in.
It's going to be exciting. It has created such a stir. It's really something to be a part of it.
Dude, yeah, it's blowing
just
up.
through different interviews I've been listening to with the guys. Yeah, it's incredible. I think, you know, I mean, obviously all credit has to go to Vika for putting this on, for developing it, for keeping in touch with us and keeping the project steered, and for picking that flatten the curve is an absolutely, you know, if anybody's been listening to your interviews before, I know this is kind of echoing what everybody else is saying, but I mean, it was just a stroke of pure genius to do the flatten the curve, because not only does it make complete sense what we're saying, but as we were saying with this whole, you know, false narrative we've been fed for the past 2 years, that was one of their catchphrases. And so during this whole psyop that this thing has been, it's perfect. It's
well,
perfect.
that's what last night when I was talking to Kevin.
Yeah, really.
It's one of the things I said to him was, like, I feel like a lot of the locking you in your house for 2 years and then like feeding these little drips of things like flatten the curve and just other little hints of stuff that have happened, whether it be in movies or athletes saying things or whatever, that all hint at flat Earth. And it's like, we're locking you in your house.
Right.
We're going to drop all these hints and hope for the best. Like, guys, figure this out, because we're not able to hold the lie up much longer. So we need as many people as possible to realize it so that we don't have a bunch of people go crazy and end up dead.
You know, and that's an interesting theory that you put forward. I hadn't really thought about that way until you talked with Kevin about it. Kind of goes along with that whole idea of they have to show you what they're doing, but they don't have to interpret it for you.
Right.
So somehow it releases them from karmic obligation in their beliefs if they tell you, but it can be told in a cryptic way to where very few are going to understand.
Right. It's
and
wild,
so unless
man.
you're hip to all these things, your radars, your radars. Go ahead.
You spend way too much time to do research.
Did I lose you?
So it's, either they're trying to get people to know the truth, or like you're saying, the karmic have to tell you what they're doing type things. But
Yeah, or a
part of me
combination of
wants
both.
to like write a combination. I've kind of been on the black pill side of things to where I feel like there's not really any good guy coming to save the day, and it's up to us to just leave. But
Yeah.
then I see things, little things in the way that it's presented, like even Super Bowl commercials. And
Hmm.
I was like, man, I feel like that's somebody that's dropping information in a good way because they're trying to help people wake up, not
Yeah, and you noticed the
not
same
trying to
commercials, I guess
deceive.
I did. I went back and
Yeah,
looked at quite a few of them, and I noticed some NASA guys from Wires, some like there was quite a few hints dropped during that, as they often do.
right. Matthew McConaughey's dude, that whole thing was like, I was just like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah, and then the whole concept bagging on the metaverse, bagging on leaving the planet, kind of like, oh, we need to take care of here, and then the background using a spacesuit with no helmet on. In the background, you got guys on wires and spacesuits in front of a blue screen.
Yeah.
Like it's just so symbol rich. But again, if you're not like understanding of these things, your understanding of the war for minds that's going on, you'd completely miss that. So
Well, most people are just looking to see what Matthew
unfortunately, it does
McConaughey
seem like,
looks like and to hear his voice, and they're not paying
yeah,
attention to anything that's actually happening.
yeah, that is true. But I mean, I've been kind of more of a cynic my whole life. It was kind of a brooder, a studier, kind of wanted to be on my own, didn't like a lot of people sometimes, wanted to be away from them. But I have to be pretty positive about the what I've seen. I mean, I'm reluctant to say it, but there are a lot of people waking up. There's a lot of people starting to question. And it's not to say that we hold absolute truth, or we've been in that so much longer than other people, so we've got the answers. No, just watching people start to kind of grow out of this just eternal trust of, daddy government kind of a thing, and
Mm-hmm.
the
Oh, dude,
questioning
I've had
books. And
people.
I have talked with people all over the United States and airports. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Airports, what?
I've just been all over the place talking to airports, talking with people, and they've straight up admitted to me, like, yeah, I was totally on the other side. I was anti this, anti that. I was pro Democrat Party, and now I've completely changed, and I'm starting to realize that the government isn't what I thought it was. And now looking back in history and looking at wars, and suddenly, I'm taking just an hour at night, and suddenly the whole narrative surrounding this war is starting to fall apart for me. And so I have to say it's pretty encouraging. It's I don't know. I'm pretty encouraged for the first time watching. There's a big pushback. I think they pushed the narrative so hard lately that maybe they overstepped a little bit. Maybe the
Right, like they
the
just
narrative
went too
writers
far with
overstepped
it.
and pushed a little too hard. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting times. And I know that this documentary is gonna create, I think, a firestorm of course, controversy, but I think it's gonna be really good for the whole movement, and it's gonna start to ask a whole lot of new questions and give a whole lot of new insight that maybe hasn't been given before. And I hope that that just brings a lot more people to begin to question things, begin to look at things, and to not to say that we have all the answers, but it's an incredibly freeing feeling to know, or to look out at events in history, to look at life, to look at, you no longer wonder why things are getting harder, or why life is becoming more difficult, or why this, why that. You can look with knowledge, you can understand what's going on, and though you may not be able to do
Yeah.
anything about some things, it's a very empowering feeling to be able to see these things for what they are. And so I just really hope that a lot of people start to see through, start to break their own biases against things, and start to be able to feel empowered like we've been able to feel.
Heck yeah, man. It's crazy just to watch it. And it's wild. And I say this often as someone with when it comes to my personal life, a very jaded past of just screwing up a lot and being a really big liar in my relationships and things like that. And so I look at it now and I can see these things from this new perspective and realizing truth in everything. Truth is what matters. And I can see how things unraveling and governments doing what they're doing and flailing and trying to cover in this story and cover in that story. It's a liar caught, and just that last ditch effort to save the lie and not be caught and called out for being a liar.
Yeah, yeah, and they're going to defend it, as the ship's on fire and sinking. They're just going to blast the narrative and blast the stories and the fear over the loudspeakers louder and louder as their ship literally sinks beneath them, and people begin to see past all of it. So I
Yeah,
appreciate hearing that from you.
yeah. It's a wild time to be alive,
So
and I'm glad to be on the side of it that I'm on.
it is. Absolutely. And it's just like anything else. I mean, we are able to do what we're doing now thanks to the gift of technology, but the same thing, that gift of technology is creating a society of dumb, head in the face smartphone drones walking around as well. So
Yeah,
I like anything in life, it's a tool, and I'm glad that we're using this tool to get out there and challenge beliefs, right? Because for the most part, these platforms are used for nothing, for no good. And it's, I was really reluctant to even get on TikTok, to be honest with you. I'm
dude.
not a huge social media person, so I was reluctant, but this is worthwhile. So,
So check. This is what got me onto TikTok. Was my daughter, who is 11, wanted to have a TikTok account, and her mom was
hmm
wanting to let her. So I decided I was going to start an account just to scope it out, see what's going on, whatever, and then ended up where we're at right now. But just
right.
through started interacting and stuff, I actually got rid of all of my personal social media accounts. Like I don't have anything that's just a Robbie's family and all that stuff. It's all this.
Yeah,
So I feel
yeah,
you on
and
that. And when
yeah,
this goes
it's in
away, guess what? It goes away. I don't care.
right, right. Yeah, because it'll get clamped down at some point, just like everything else, right? It's just
Yeah,
running a little too wild, making too many people money right now, and the upper echelons are not going to clamp down quite yet, but it's
yeah.
coming, just like anything else, it's coming. And I mean, again, it's one of those things where you know you're getting close to some truth or some lie in that respect when people that post things regarding the topics we're talking about, whether it be flat Earth, whether it be questioning history, historical events, those people get flagged and taken down. And
Yeah.
again, you could post about just about anything you want online. You could post just about anything except for a few topics, and this is probably the biggest one. I mean, there are people out there on YouTube, on other platforms, talking about some of the most crazy, sometimes vile, disgusting stuff. But
Dude,
you say
you
the
can
Earth is
have
flat, and you're going to get flagged.
you can put grown ass men in dresses that say they feel like a woman today, and they can do and
hmm
say and spew whatever filth they want across any platform, any age, it doesn't matter, but anything that's telling actual truth
Right,
gets shut down. It's wild.
right.
Women and men are not the
Is that?
same, just so y'all know. Men are men, women are women. I don't care how you feel about it.
Yeah, and this world's yeah, and this world's got a lot of things confused at the moment. A lot of values are missing or destroyed. I grew up pretty pretty different than a lot of people. I did spend a good portion of my life out in the country, so I kind of grew up with a little more country values. Now that wasn't out in the boonies, it wasn't 50 miles from town or anything, but I did live on a sizable ranch, raising horses, cows, sheep, goats, riding tractors, quads, hunting. I mean, you can just about anything you can imagine. Um, and I think that just kind of taught me, and I'm very fortunate for this. And I didn't think it was a blessing at the time. I wanted to be with my friends in, town. But now I look back and I see it as a blessing because I'm able to think a little bit more. independently just naturally. And that's not because of my strength. That has nothing to do with me. That just has to do with my the way the way I was raised a little bit more close
Necessity.
to home values and valuing family and valuing independence and independent strength and not depending on other people. Being able to build a fire or hunt or whatever is it allows you those little things. They don't seem like they tie back into regular life, but they kind of do. It's an attitude you can carry, and it's an attitude I would encourage a lot of people trying to carry, is especially in this community, is really start to try to work on finding areas in your life that you are depending on other people or especially government. And it's not to say we shouldn't depend on people, but
Yes.
really on other people or especially government. And it's not to say we shouldn't depend on people, but
Yes.
really finding your own strength is really important, because it's going to take strength to deal to say something about this is going to take a lot of strength. And sometimes it takes a lot of strength to keep your mouth shut because you want to say something so bad. And sometimes you
Right.
have to also listen to that voice inside that says, this is not the right time to do that.
Oh, that's the hardest one to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes, you just got to sit there with people, 5, 6 people in a room, all your friends, and they're just smack talking so bad about anything.
Hmm.
And you're like, yeah, I kind of believe that. And, oh, yeah, I kind of believe that too. And wow, okay, now I know how you really feel. Well, you know what? I'm going to still choose to be your friend. I'm going to go ahead and we'll talk about it if we ever get to it, but I'm going to go ahead and segment that off, realize you don't actually hate me, and we're going to continue to be friends.
Bubba Harris, got to get back to work, question everything. Yes, sir. Oh, there's Mama.
Indeed. Indeed. There's some good comments. It's funny because you've been completely frozen on my screen. The only thing that's been working is the comments moving, but I have no live video of you right now. It's very strange.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so something's going wrong with technology. I'm afraid to hit
Oh,
any buttons
see,
because I don't know this live too well. So I'm afraid to hit anything and back out on accident.
yeah, you just basically have to wait. Search for truth. What's up, brother? Howdy. People think they can be independent of him, but they can't. It's hilarious. I like that comment. Can't be independent of
Yeah,
him, but loves freedom and liberty.
interesting. That's very good. Yeah, this is not the a lot of people that are growing in strength, and I have because this topic has been breached or other topics, and similarly, I have grown so close to some friends, and I've lost others. But the ones that that are meant to be here right now in my life, that are we're directed to be learning from each other and all that sort of thing. I have grown so much closer with them because we're able to share these topics, because we're able to talk about these things. And sometimes I have been surprised at lately by some friends because suddenly I find out they've been thinking this all along. And until I opened
Man,
my mouth or they saw a post that I liked,
dude, that's one of the biggest things for me was realizing other people think this stuff. Like, I've been kind
yeah,
of this out on an island, flat earth guy by myself. And
right,
so, I saw a few videos here and there before all the censorship really came in on it. And then was doing kind of my own experimenting and just looking, to find out. And I just came to the conclusion that Earth's flat, without it being a big deal. But never really talked about it openly to anybody because I didn't think it was a huge deal at the time, and I didn't want people to think I was crazy.
right.
So TikTok is what got me. I got on TikTok. I actually saw Kevin's video of his geology class,
I heard you said
and
that. Yeah,
I saw that video, and it was right after I got on TikTok. And I was like, oh my God, other people really do think like this, and people really see it. Here I go. Like, it's been crazy.
Yeah, and it's awesome to find that you've had so much more in common with people, right? Because we're all, I think a lot of people are real gun shy. I mean, and
Yeah,
rightly
man.
so. Think about the vilification that's gone on of people speaking out against the jab or saying that they don't want their kids to get it, or the absolute hatred and that's spilled atoms. People are gun shy to come out about these things, right? I mean, much less a governmental system that's punishing disobedience or disobedient thinking more and more. I mean, as we edge closer and closer to a society that wants to punish the very idea of a dissident thought can get your bank account frozen or that sort of a society. As we get closer
Right.
and closer, I don't blame people for not wanting to say this. Um, and not everyone needs to have a YouTube channel or a TikTok channel. Just talking with a friend or a family member about it and approaching it
Yeah.
in a very, nice and approachable way. Like, wow, that's pretty interesting, but man, NASA sure spends a lot of money, opening up something like that. Like, yeah, I know
Right.
that's a lot of
What
money
are they
though.
doing with it?
How much actually goes every day to NASA and your tax dollars? That opens a
There
very
go.
interesting conversation.
Oh, that's funny. Sure is a lot of money the guys got going over there. What do you reckon they do with it, fellas?
Yeah, and that's not even to tell you the independent contractors. And this has nothing to do with independent contractors. This isn't the satellite manufacturers. We're talking about just NASA on its own. And I actually worked for a satellite company for a while. I actually was a composites manufacturing technician. So I actually worked on the composite skins that would go on satellites. And being around that whole environment and watching the assembly and being in the 10K clean rooms and watching things go together while also having all this floating around my mind, I was like, this is the greatest irony ever. Like, I used to be a big NASA fanboy back in the day, and now I'm walking around and I'm kind of like, the wolf among the sheep in a way, because I'm sitting here going, I don't really believe any of this anymore, but I'm working for you temporarily. And it was
Right.
really bizarre because looking when your viewpoint changes, just like when I looked out the cockpit for the first time at high altitude, and suddenly I realized that there was no curve and I'd been fooling myself the whole time. Um, you look at these, well, they could work just as well being attached to a balloon. Now, I could be open to seeing more proofs that they do go up in these rockets and they do the things that they're saying they're doing. Sure, I'll be glad to watch that evidence and you can present it and we can go over it, we can discuss it, and that'd be great. But what I saw and what I saw installed was a lot of incongruencies in manufacturing techniques, imperfections, um, fuel needed not matching, just a whole lot of things that I started like, wow, I have these new eyes now, and it's everything is falling apart. And it's funny because I've been pretty close with a few friends lately, and I told them, I've kind of warned them, like, don't ask me unless you want the whole narrative to fall apart. Don't start questioning. Don't go down this rabbit hole. It really is like Alice. Like once
Did
once your
that's
freaking
what I
mind's open, it all falls apart.
that's where anytime somebody asks me a question, it's like a friend or family member or my wife or whatever. They ask me something. I'm like, do you want to know where this is going? Do
Right?
you really want to have this conversation before I start talking?
Right. And because you can have, and I did, and if people manage to skip by it, great. But I had a complete dark night of the soul at one point. Like when the whole thing, I realized the money system is fake, that it's, run by a corporation essentially. It's a private institution separate from our government, that the District of Columbia is not beholden to our judicial system. When I figured out why taxes were instituted in the first place and that they are actually complete usury and all these things fell apart, all of a sudden, like I lost lot of motivation for a long time. And won't be, I'd be a liar if I said I didn't get kind of depressed. I actually did get depressed for quite a while. I lost a lot of, suddenly my motivation for going to work and climbing the corporate ladder as I was doing and stuff became kind of pointless. And that may happen to people that open this door fully, right? And that may be a real thing where you suddenly the reasons why you did things before, why you acted certain ways, why you worked here or there, or you behave these ways, it can really affect your outlook on life. And so
Dude.
to those just getting in, if there are any, like, this will be quite a journey, but it's worth it. It's definitely worth it, but it's not easy.
Yeah, it changes everything. And it
Yeah.
makes, like for me, it changed like my only, literally my only focus in everything I do when it comes to pushing videos, pushing a channel, whether it's my website or whatever, is the end game is buying land, building, leaving this society. That's it. Like
Yeah, you know
everything I
what?
do
I,
is that. It's not about
yeah,
getting this job or a promotion here. It's about building that.
yeah. And I agree with you. And I mean, unfortunately, not everybody's going to have the skills or the ability to do that. So hopefully they can join up with other people who have. But
Yes.
yeah, I agree with you. I do. Becoming more self-sufficient, right? That's how this juggernaut of a government got out of control in the first place. It's people losing their ability to take care of themselves, right? Losing the
Yeah.
skills to becoming, cubicle drones. As I was at one point in my life too. None of this stuff, none of these things I say are derogatory. I think there's a lot of derogatory things going on in the community, unfortunately. So this is not derogatory, but cubicle drones, people with their eyes shut, not awake, all that stuff. I mean, I was there, definitely was
Yep.
there. I worked for years in a cubicle, and it drove me crazy. It absolutely drove me crazy, to the point where when I first started researching all this stuff, I would basically tell people, they'd be like, "How are you doing today?" I'd be like, "Dying a little bit more each day." That was my response. I was not doing well because suddenly my world was tipped upside down. Like this is all pointless. Now it's not a healthy place to be, and I'm really glad that I was given the strength to pull out of that. The right people that came to my life, not a credit to me, but there was a higher hand guiding people that I met, and I was able to pull myself out of that and create a real positive attitude that now, having done some of the things I've done and been the places I've been able to have some really interesting conversations with friends, and they've been able to kind of look at me and go, I still think you're full of it, but I'm going to just respect that you think that, and it kind of sits in their brain, and that's all
Right.
that's needed.
Well, dude, and that's how it was for me, is it just kind of sat in my brain at first after I heard the Kyrie, it was my two oldest boys, who were teenagers at the time, and they were like, Kyrie thinks Earth's flat. I was like, Kyrie's an idiot. Well, Shaq does too. Shaq's an idiot too. They're all idiots. And then it was just out of mind. I didn't care. I just went on with my life. And then I heard something random a few months later about flat Earth, and all those thoughts came back to that conversation with my boys. And I was like, what is wrong with people? We know
Right.
Earth is flat. They told us, or not flat, because in school they told us blah, 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 Christopher Columbus. They showed us this picture of what people used to think. And when I saw that picture in my head, I went, oh, crap. Why'd they show me
Hmm.
that?
Yeah. Well, we had globes in every classroom. I mean, you
Right.
have to, you have to
But
indoctrinate
why?
them since birth, just like, there was no antediluvian civilizations or civilizations that were
Right.
more advanced than ours. No, 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 no. You got to make sure that you get them while they're young, while
Right.
they're impressionable.
Once it clicked, and I was like, why did they show me or mention flat Earth at all to me?
Right.
Like, what was the point of ever meant? If it's not flat, we know it's a globe. It's 100% pure scientific fact. Why ever mention flat Earth and make it something of ridicule to begin with? It should just never be mentioned. And that's what actually, when that thought entered
Right.
my head, why
Because
did
it's
they
it's
show me the
sealed.
flat Earth? I was like, I got to look now, and I got
Correct.
to prove these people that Earth
Yep.
is not flat and that it's just as stupid as that picture as my science textbook showed me when I was in like third grade or fourth grade.
Yeah. Yeah. Why did it get brought up in the first place? I know people try to say, oh, it's a psyop, and maybe it's a psyop that was created to reveal the truth in the only way that could be revealed. I mean, they're so far down the rabbit hole now. There's no turning back. They can't go back and say the Earth is flat officially. They can't say we've been to the moon unofficially. They could put out really interesting shows. There's a new show out on Netflix, I believe, talking about Stanley Kubrick and them filming the false moon landing and all that stuff. It's really interesting because they're putting this information out there. So if the flat Earth was a psyop, it may be like you were talking about. It's a psyop towards bringing out the truth of the matter in the only way they can. Because if history is this much of a lie, they will all lose their heads over this big of a lie for this long, about who's
They
really
just
running things, about how things really
delay,
have gone.
secure as much as they can secure, delay,
Right.
secure, delay, secure,
Yeah.
and eventually it's all going to crumble. And at that point, it won't matter what NASA says because NASA won't be a thing.
Right. Well, I mean, they test the waters every once in a while, right? They release footage of a UFO filmed by a flight crew or a Navy ship, and then they say, oh yeah, no, totally, yeah, they may be among us already, and things like that. And they'll try to throw things out in a way to kind of, I think, in a way in the future to be like, yeah, well, we kind of said so, or we were just kidding. That's not a real thing anymore. It
Right.
doesn't work out. So they're kind of throwing this whole thing out with the flat Earth too. Like, we kind of told you, we were joking. It was in a show that was kind of like tongue in cheek, but we still kind of told you about it, and you didn't listen. And they're also kind of testing the water, I think, to see people's reactions, to see if people would buy it, or if people will still go with their heads down, still buried in their phones, not caring. I mean, there's been some bombshell news over the past couple of years that should have been absolute headlines, and it wasn't. It was buried in some obscure articles on alternate news media, and no major news network would cover it. And so I don't doubt that the only way this information is going to get out is people that are brave and kind of just saying, screw it, I don't care, like yourself, like Vika, like these guys that are, posting stuff constantly every day, and kind of getting the word out to where you do trigger the algorithms where somebody may see something before it gets pulled out, taken offline.
Hmm.
So I appreciate it very much, and I appreciate what everybody's been doing. Like I said, it's awesome to be here on your show. It's awesome to be part of this documentary. I mean, I don't know how exactly it happened, but I am real happy to be here.
And it came out of nowhere too. I was like, wait a
Yeah,
minute, what?
yeah. Especially for
Pretty
me
awesome.
too, because I came in last minute. I mean, Vika, contacted me and I came in last minute and I was just blown away. I'm like, what are the chances? I don't, if it was a comment a comment I made to a fellow pilot, and he responded to the comment, and that's how the conversation started. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, I don't remember the last time I've ever commented on anything. I don't go on Facebook much. I go on Facebook to have basically the messenger function because that's about how some of the friends that travel and are in other countries and fellow pilots is sometimes the only way they can get a hold of me to say
Right.
hi or share a picture or whatever. So I keep it kind of more for that reason. But my Facebook is completely outdated. I haven't made an actual post in a lot of years. And so it's something I'm only getting back into now to be able to share some topics and things like that. But so in other words, I don't remember the last time I commented on anything, and I was just led to comment on this video, and I don't know what became me because I was kind of in the same position you were. I was just gonna kind of keep it to myself. I was like, okay, that's cool, But so that was kind of why I was writing because there was some clearance work, some jobs I had to take. I was doing some contract flying where I was, there was some not anything like top secret, but I had to get some clearances because there was some information that was, you know, that not to be known by the general public about certain flights and whatnot. And
Right.
so I was like, I'm gonna keep my nose clean and not comment a whole lot because I don't want to jeopardize some of these things. But I don't know what got into me that day. I just decided to make a comment to a fellow pilot that said something on one of Victor's pages, and then here we are. So, they say God works in mysterious ways.
Dude, it's wild. That's basically what happened with my TikTok account. It was created just to spy on TikTok to watch for my kid, and then turned into
Right.
here we go.
And look at you now. It's
Make it
fantastic.
happen.
That's awesome. Yeah, you never know. Once you crack that door open, you never know where it's going to lead. It's quite an adventure.
Hey, and I'm glad you talked about that anyway, because I want to mention again about this project, Flatten the Curve. One of the awesome things about it is free. People aren't trying to sell you something. Uh, other than me trying to get you to
Nope.
go to my website to buy a t-shirt, or somebody else trying to get you to go to theirs to buy a hat or whatever. Other than that, we're not trying to sell you any
Yeah.
secret to anything, any book that's going to make your life amazing. All we're doing is asking you to listen, to have an open mind, and then to investigate on your own and to go seek for truth. That's it. It's free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I got to thank everybody, including yourself. You've been hosting, and everybody else is hosted, and the shows that everybody's been doing. Like, it's been amazing to have this support because, yeah, everybody that's on this has, full-time jobs. They got their own lives. They have their own things they're doing. And we're just lucky enough to be part of this and be able to just put the information out. But yeah, the fact that it's all volunteer. The fact that the hours that Vika and the other guys put into producing and editing all this documentary, what I've done, what anybody else, like what I've done personally, pales in comparison to how much work they've put in. So I can't thank them enough. And in a world where everything is transactionally based, I mean, there is virtually nothing free out there. To just have something coming out of this magnitude, creating this big of waves, that's creating this much of a stir, that has literally nothing to sell you except if you'd like to support the cause, of course, go buy a shirt, of course, go buy a
Right.
hat, show support for it, get another conversation going. That's great. That's fantastic. But there's also no obligation. There is no fee to watch. It's not a purchase thing. Not to say that that's wrong. If it needs to support a company, I'm not trying to say that, that's incorrect, but to see people doing this out of their own desire just to get the word out, to get people thinking,
Right.
and being willing to take flack for it, and being willing to risk, reputations and how people view them. That's one of the biggest risks people can take. We live in a society where everything is about your image. I mean, you can see it. You browse through
It's
TikTok for
huge.
10 seconds. You can see it's all about how people are perceived and what their self-image is at, and am I desirable, driven by an incredible amount of insecurity in this world. And for people to go out and risk their reputations, especially those that are, still in military or in those kinds of fields, and the small risks I have had to take, it takes a lot. And I admire anybody who's willing to do that. And yourself included, coming out with this show, especially coming out with this show, being in front of all this many viewers and talking about the subject you are, being willing to kind of take anything on, is not something a whole lot of places do. You see a lot of people start out this way, and then they start to kind of morph as the ad revenue starts coming
Mm-hmm.
in, and as the pressure start getting put on. It's just like politicians, right? I wanted to go into politics when I was a kid. It was well on my way to starting to be in politics and going, being on city councils and whatnot, until obviously I didn't think that was the direction I was being led to go. But even now I question, would I have been able to hold out had I ascended in any way in politics, had I gotten up to any sort of status, whether it be in a town or city or anything like that. Let's say I'd worked at it for years. Would I been able to be corruption free when the money
Right.
starts coming in, when the pressures start happening, when the bill, you get the pat on the back with the big promise of a check if you just kind of sneak this one bill in, and it's, I would hope that I would be able to, but it's an incredible pressure. And
Yeah.
so I see that a lot
Especially that
in
that
any
check is
community when
going to
people get really
make your
low.
house
And
payment
so
for the
that's one
next
of the
two
things.
years.
Yeah, yeah, or it's going to make your student loans go away or whatever, right? Things become
Yeah.
real hard to say no and hold your ground. And so to see something that's keeping money out of the equation is keeping the stream of truth pure, I think. And it's not to say that there isn't other truth out there, man. I started out like everybody else did, and there's still some really good people out there, and then there's some that unfortunately have started to pull to the side of, you can just kind of see it in the way the advertising's going and that kind of thing. And I hope them all the best, and I hope the truth still starts coming out. But it's so
Yeah.
fantastic to be working with people that are just doing this out of the goodness and that's owned in their own hearts.
That's it, man. Only for truth. I might sell
Exactly.
2 shirts. I might
Exactly.
sell 100. I
Yeah,
might
because this
sell
life is a short
0.
one.
It is short.
It is, and
You might
it's
as
a
well, dude. I
time we
don't
only got
know.
a limited time to do.
There's And there's just something, I don't know, freeing about it. And it's not, for me, it's not, because it's actually the opposite of the religion. I grew up in the church. I grew up in, as a
Hmm.
musician in church as a kid growing up, and preaching and teaching, and was a pastor, and did,
Hmm.
did all these things. And and I feel like the Father brought me out of that.
Right.
And like, no, it's not about this. It's just, I could get up and preach on
Yes.
Sunday and be Global Witness, what's up, brother? And then be on Pornhub 30 minutes later, or doing God knows what else I was doing during those times, and
Right.
shouting and playing music and preaching Jesus, and all that same thing, when there was not a ounce of truth.
Yeah.
Liar. It's so
Yeah.
I see it now, and I'm just like, man, it's truth. And so I'll share it all the time. Truth is love, is freedom, is truth, is love, is freedom. Because if it's not
Hmm.
truth, then you're not loving. If
Absolutely.
it's not truth, then you're in bondage. So that's what it comes down. It's why I harp on
Absolutely.
true earth and true man, is we have to be true where we live,
Yeah.
what we know, who we are. We have to be true and real, not
Right.
to who we think we are and who we think we need to be, but who we are actually created to be.
Right. Right. Exactly. And that's one of the things that starting to question the narrative around you can start to do. It can start to reveal those masks we all wear, right? I mean, I grew up, it's similar to you. I grew up in the church very much and was very involved in the church. And I pulled away for a long time, as a lot of people do. And I was doing all the same things. I was leading in the church. I was in various capacities. But similar to you, it was not. It was more of an action. I was more of a, yeah. There was a part of me that really wanted all these things that people around me were singing about, but I didn't feel like I was getting it. And at that point, it was just becoming a rote thing. I was going there, you sing, you do whatever you're doing, and you're just kind of following an action. And when you leave and you kind of have your time to assess your beliefs and why you believe them, and kind of make your way back to, like you said, like a truth where you develop that relationship, or you work on your strength and find strength from within and find strength from without. And those are the most important times, because, like you said, you do find the truth. And it doesn't have to be in a church building. It can be out in the wilderness camping. It can be wherever, right? And that's going to be how you're spoken to, and it's going to be unique to each individual. And
Right.
for those that are in the camp of where they believe that, the divine is a speaker to each person, not just held within a book. Now, there's
That's
obviously
right.
people on both sides of the camp, but I'm more in the active camp where there's an active force moving on. And so I've seen it too many times in my life, especially times when I was mad and real angry and real far away. And it's just bizarre to look back and see the synchronicities that had to happen for me to be here at this time, or for me to narrowly avoid death in this situation, or multiple times. It's just like, okay, yeah, no, there's some truth. There's objective truth in this universe. And now let's go ahead and find it. Let's go ahead and find what it means to us, right? To each individual person. And yeah, I think there's an objective truth for sure.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I'm about free thinking and thinking for yourself, but there is objective truth. There's not your truth and my truth, and
Right.
you just be what you want today, and call me Flipper
Right. Well,
tomorrow,
that's led
or
us
go
into some
swimming,
problems. That's led us into some problems lately
just
too.
because I feel like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And one
crazy.
of those seems to be, I mean, it just seems to be that we've been just fed lie after lie. And one of those things is exactly the subject of this documentary. When you observe, you look out and you observe something, it just seems so
Yeah,
painfully obvious. Like you're like, wait, how could I have been sold this? And it's kind of like the belief systems of they're promoting, the priests of science and the god of the talking TV box and whatever person's on that. And it's really fun to watch people breaking that cycle. And all I know is I'm beyond thankful that I met the right people that asked me the right questions that got me thinking, and I was just strong enough or stupid enough to start researching them.
Sean, Brucey, what's up, guys? And likes and all that
Yeah,
stuff. I don't make money off it. I mean, you make a few cents here and there, but it's more that the likes and shares and stuff just help spread the message, which is the part that matters. So if y'all tap the
right.
screen while you're
That's
watching, I
how this all
appreciate it.
works.
That helped to.
That's how this all works. Yeah, I'm loving the comments. I haven't been going to go backward now and looking at the comments and stuff. And yeah, appreciate everybody talking about it. And you know, it
Losing my, I don't know if it's his internet or mine. Try to get him back in here for a minute, real quick. My frozen guys, my connection light keeps going down to yellow and red. My frozen guys, my connection light keeps going down to yellow and red. Will Ferrell voice. Friend Taylor, where at? Maybe. When was it? We get yapping and talking, and I don't see everything that's happening. Ooh, 1500 though. Yeah, I can see my internet dropping in and out. Just now. There we go. Technical difficulties.
Hey, I'm back.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. My phone froze, flashed, did all kinds of stuff, and before I knew it, I was off.
Doing live everything.
Yeah, one of our internet connections isn't working so hot right now.
I think it's me dropping in and out right now.
Uh, well, yeah. So we've covered quite a bit. Is where else we want to go with this? How much time do we have?
Um, I was planning on doing an hour, hour and a half, whatever you wanted to do, man.
Yeah, I don't. We can go wherever. We've pretty much covered a lot of bases. I'm
Yeah,
excited for. I'm very excited for the documentary. I mean, I haven't seen it yet, so I hope I don't know exactly
I'm
what's going
ready.
to be
That's what I'm
in there
ready
or
to
not.
see it, man. That's why, like, I'm
Yeah,
not ready
yeah, it's
to, like, there's a lot of questions I want to ask you, but I know it's going to be things that are in the movie. So I want to wait and then bring y'all
right,
back in
right.
maybe as a group and do another
Abs-
live after the
Absolutely,
fact and then talk about some of those things and pick your brains on things that we actually
absolutely.
see
Yeah,
once and not spoil it too much now.
exactly. Yeah, we could talk about quite a bit, but I do want to leave some of the meat for the documentary too, because it's just going to be done in a format where it's going to make sense. When you get the visual aspect going, it's not just audio,
Right.
and I think it's just all going to come together really nice.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
So,
I,
and I just got my observations. I got my things I can share. But the guys that I'm with, the other crew, the crew members on this ship they have got a lot of things I want to hear. I've been listening to them too, but I want to hear some of their truths that are putting into this documentary. I mean, it is exciting. I've got friends I've shared with it. They're ready to watch. They've got friends all in California and a couple of the states, and they're going to be watching. And
heck
it's gonna
yeah.
be it's gonna be amazing.
I can't wait, man. It's going to be awesome. Hey, so again, guys, we're
Yeah.
talking about, excuse me, we're talking about Flatten the Curve. The documentary comes out Tuesday. So Tuesday, 2
Yeah.
22 at 22:22 Spain time. I'm not sure what their actual time is. Lost them again. Um, but it'll be released and that's 4:22 p.m. Eastern time in the United States. I'll be streaming it here on TikTok. RealTruthSeekers.net is the main website where it'll be hosted at. You'll be able to find it on Vika's Facebook page, on our YouTube channels, all over the place. It's going to be everywhere. It's free. Just want you to watch it and share it and watch it and then contemplate what you're told and then go into the real world and put your hands on it. And you're going to see the truth. Anyway, guys, we're having some technical issues, so I'm going to go ahead and jump off. I'll actually be back on here in a couple hours anyway with Mike for our normal Thursday night um, Tokcast. So we'll be back on at 10. And thanks to Josh for joining us for the past hour and chatting with us about the film. And sorry, my internet button is going off like crazy. We'll holler at y'all here in just a little bit, guys. I love y'all.